What's up, grinders? So in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing a video by Metatron Academy. See, I was actually aware of Metatron because I think like a year or so ago, he made what was considered controversial videos about ancient Rome or the ancient Greeks or something. Anyway, I started following him, found out that he spoke Latin, was just like instantly interested type of thing. And apparently he has another YouTube channel. Someone recommended that I go check out this video called How I Practice Languages with Skyrim, which is found at Metatron Academy. Now, I'm very interested in this because obviously I speak, well, it's hard to say I speak languages. Like, I speak Esperanto completely fluently, but I've dabbled in other languages and I've got a pretty good level within Mandarin Chinese, and I am a game developer by trade. So this is like just hitting all the right check marks for me. So let's see what he's got to say.
Hello, 你好.
Oh, he speaks Chinese. I'm getting excited.
I'd like to show you how I use the video game, The Elder Scrolls Skyrim, to increase my vocabulary when I study languages. It's a great way, it's a great method. I want to show you how much vocabulary I can learn while I play a video game for just 10 minutes. Today we're going to do it with Mandarin Chinese, which is the language that I've been focusing on lately, but I've done this when I was a teenager with English, and I've done it with my Japanese. Okay, so right now I'm in my home. This is already a great way to practice your vocabulary. Home in Chinese is 家, but you can also say 房子, and you can also say 公寓 to say apartment or flat. So I can say 现在我在我的家.
His pronunciation is good. He knows how to use the language. He's definitely not someone who learned it 5 minutes ago, so you can definitely trust that he knows what he's talking about when it comes to Chinese.
I'm in my home, and I repeat this every time I play. Then, since I've mastered the word home, house, then I can work on the rooms, okay, of the house. So let's pretend that this is my living room. Living room in Chinese is 客厅. So 这是我家的客厅. And then if I'm close to where you cook, it becomes your kitchen. So kitchen in Chinese is 厨房. So I can say 我在我的厨房. 我在厨房. So this seems
Hey Metatron, 我也在你的房子里，你能找到我吗?
to be my dining room, which in Chinese is 饭厅. 这是我家的饭厅. And then I can say 这是我女儿房间. This is the room of my daughters. And 她是
我也在我不在那里。
我的女儿, she's my daughter. 现在她在睡觉. In this moment, she is sleeping. Okay, so then we go up the stairs, and in here we've got, I can say 我到了, I have arrived. 这是我的卧室. This is my bedroom. And
hey, random question for the Chinese natives. Okay, so every like course teacher's bedroom is 卧室, but I've never actually heard anyone use it in conversation. They just say 房间, you know, 我在我的房间, 他在我的房间, 我们都在我的房间. You know, they use 房间 when they're talking about their own room type of thing. So is 卧室 actually used in like spoken conversation at all?
And then, you can, once you have practiced your rooms, you can start describing the stuff, the furniture, for example. 在我的卧室有一张床. In my bedroom, you have
a little bit of a tone issue there. It's not a language critique video, obviously, because like I don't get my tones right all the time. So I'm guessing he's probably around the same level in Chinese as I am.
a bed, okay, 蜡烛, candles, this is a 蛋糕, cake, and of course then you can sort of start practicing longer sentences. This is what I do. Lately, instead of just saying 蛋糕, cake, I say, for example, 你喜欢哪种蛋糕? What type of cake do you like?
哎呀，我想吃你的蛋糕，你可以给我吗? I feel like that's how a Japanese anime would speak Chinese.
This is 一本书, one book, etc. So as I finish with my home, keep on describing, for example, 椅子, 茶几, and then...
Okay, so far, this is all good. So it's just, what you're doing is you're just reviewing vocabulary, but you're reviewing it actually in context because, like, you're linking the words to the actual locations within the rooms. And for those who are curious, I've actually done videos not specifically on what he's doing right here, but I've taught Esperanto. There's a playlist on my channel from years back where I taught Esperanto using World of Warcraft. So, and I used what's called the direct method at the time, which a lot of people will say is like comprehensible input. It's like just like a very specific version of it. And I used that to teach like classes, like battle moves and all this type of stuff, and then like the specific words for like the monsters and all these types of things. So it's definitely like a great idea.
It's time to go out. So how do you say it's time to go out? You say 该 something 了 is it's time to do this. So if it's time to sleep, I could say 该睡觉了. But it's time to go out, 该出去了. Or I can also say 出去玩, it's time to go out. So 开门, open the door.
You could also say 出去时间到了.
And here we are outside. That one splendid thing about 天气, so Skyrim, is that the weather changes every day. And that's a fantastic way to practice the weather. So for example, 今天天气很好. Today the weather is very good. I could say 今天热得不得了. It's so hot. I just can't.
Something he hasn't actually stressed here, which you're going to like discover yourself as soon as you do something like this, is that you're going to find massive holes in your abilities. So you're going to go look at something, you're going to go, that, what is the word for that? And then you're actually going to look it up. And another thing is, I actually used a similar technique but with World of Warcraft. Now, I'll tell you what I did in World of Warcraft, because he hasn't shown it yet, but maybe he will later on in the video. But with World of Warcraft, when you pick up every single item, it's got the actual words for the item. Sometimes you'll hear audio, but like, it's got a lot of written language within World of Warcraft, and it's fully translated to Mandarin Chinese. So you can actually learn like a ton of vocab just by trying to translate everything that you're picking up. And it also helps actually link it to the items, because if you pick up a sword that's made of the loins of an orc, you know how to say those words now. Now, obviously, the majority of those words are not going to be useful in everyday context, but at least they're fun to learn.
Can't. That's an expression. You could say 今天是晴天. It's a wonderful weather. You can say 蓝天白云, which means blue sky and white clouds. If it was cloudy, you could say 今天是阴天. Now let's talk about if it's raining. Okay, you say 今天下雨. It's raining. If you think it's going to rain, you could say 今天要下雨了, etc. 今天很冷, or today is very cold, or you could say 今天一点也不冷. Today is not even a bit cold. Now let's talk about 我的家的附近. So nearby, 我的家的附近有, there is. In this case, this is my 邻居, my neighbor, and he happens to be the blacksmith, which in Chinese you say 铁匠.
You know, I've actually got a really funny story. I'm just going to inject in here because it literally happened last night. So I'm in a hotel right now in China, and there's my neighbor, okay? That mother, he was like talking at 1 a.m. on the phone loudly and laughing, and I had to go out there, bang on his door, and tell him to shut up. I was like, "Duf, duf, duf, 你干嘛? 你太吵了，闭嘴!" And I was just like slamming on his door, and he comes out, and he was like ready to go, and then like he saw this white person standing here, because like we're in the countryside, and he was like, "Oh!" Like I feel like he saw my face, and it like terrified him, and then he just like, and then he just went, and then closed the door type of thing. And I went back in my room, and I was sitting there like furious, okay, for like 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, he's settled down, he learned his lesson. And like 5 minutes later, that mother started again. So then I had to go complain to the hotel staff, and then they went and dealt with him, and finally he shut up. I'm just getting that story out there because I wanted to murder this guy for like the last few hours.
铁匠铺, the shop, but the person is just 铁匠. 她是铁匠, 她在工作. She is working now. If she was over
I would say 那个女人很生气了，看她的脸，她的表情不高兴。
here making ingots, then I would say 她在做铁锭, iron ingot, or for example,
I actually didn't know how to say that, so I've just learned a word.
or 钢锭, steel ingot, or 尖.
And as I was saying, that's a great way of doing it, because you're going to have to look up random words that you've never needed in real life, and you probably will never need in real life. But at least you can learn the components of them.
布的钢锭, hardened steel ingots. This is a 酒吧, 所以在这里可以喝酒. This is a bar, and in here you can drink alcohol. 现在我在走路. In this moment, I am walking, or 跑步, running, which, by the way, 锻炼身体, to exercise your body. 对身体很好. It's good for your health, for your body. 为了健
And imagine we're living in like some completely parallel universe, okay, where all these NPCs are like walking around, but they've got their own thoughts, and they're seeing this guy just walking around speaking random Chinese and poking at things and stuff, and they're just like, just ignore him, everyone, just ignore him. He does this like once a day.
健康 for the health. Okay, so this is 一口井, this is a well, and 现在我在这个城市的街市. In this moment, I'm in the street market of this town. I said town, 城市 is a city, 城镇 is a town, 村庄 is like a village.
Yeah, I'd say this is a cunzhang.
So there are many municipalities and words that you can use in practice. 在这你可以买很多东西. Here we can buy a lot of things. 比方说, for example,
All we need now is the customary like Chinese shopkeeper standing there going, 来吧, 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 我有书给你, 来吧, 来吧, 来吧. You know, just doing these types of things to give it like the true authentic taste.
同是 tomato, 土豆, potatoes. Leek, which will be porro in Italian, in Chinese is 韭葱. Then you've got cabbage, cavolo, which in Chinese you would say 卷心菜. Then
Okay, this is a funny thing. Like, often when I'm speaking a language, I will sometimes just randomly merge into another language. I don't know if anyone's ever done this. Like, have you, like, I remember, like, I was speaking with my wife. It commonly happens when you're in a scenario where you've had to recently swap languages a few times. Like, I was with an Esperanto speaker, a Chinese Esperanto speaker, and then I was with my wife, and then I went with him, and then I was with her, and, like, something happened in my brain, and, like, I ended up, like, just completely talking Esperanto to my wife, and she was like, you know I don't understand, right? And I was like, oh god, so sorry about that. And it's happened at work as well. Like, I'll be talking on the phone with a friend, and like some colleague will come along and they'll start talking to me, and I'll be like, 啊你干嘛？现在我跟我的朋友说话。And they'll look at me and they'll be like, what the and I'll be like, oh, so sorry.
And 牛奶 is milk, 奶料 is...
This is, oh god, I'm getting so off topic with this video. But 牛奶, that was the first Chinese word I ever learned. And it was in a bad way, okay? So, like, I knew no Chinese at this point. There was, like, zero Chinese. And it was, like, a girl previous to my wife. Yes, she's aware of the story, so don't go start messaging her, everyone. Okay? And I remember I was with her, and I pointed at this region, and I said, how do you say this in Chinese? And she went, 牛奶. And I thought for, like, a good 6 months, because I didn't learn Chinese, that was the word for that region. And I remember one day I was with her and I was like jokingly like across from the table from her and I went, 牛奶. And like one of her friends just got up, went, bought a milk and gave it to me and I was like, what the F? Why'd you give me milk?
Here you've got all sorts of meat, and again, great practice for vocabulary. So beef, you say 牛肉, 羊肉, 牛肉. And that's good. Also salmon, you can practice your fish. Salmon is 三味鱼. This is 兔子. 等等. Oh yeah, Venice.
This is a very interesting thing about Chinese. There is literally very, very few words that come from English. And every time you encounter them, you're like, oh, thank God, something I don't have to like just raw memorize. It's like cafe is like coffee, obviously. And then he also said salmon then. I'm just trying to think of some other words. There's very few that actually come from English. But when you do encounter them, it's kind of like refreshing because you're just like, oh, thank the Lord, I don't have to try and figure this one out.
Venison, it will be basically the meat of a deer. So for those who don't know, and in Chinese is 鹿肉. 这是龟斯蒂 these 这些是 these are wooden barrels, so we can say 木桶.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
锤, 铁锤.
I was just sitting there thinking, how would I say wooden barrel? And then, yeah, it's just like literally wooden and then like bucket.
就是杖锤. It's a mace, 小刀, 杯子等等. Then I like practicing. This is a shop. Okay, now shop in Chinese, you can say 商铺, you can say 商店. I like saying 商店, so I can say 这是我的最喜欢的商店. This is my favorite shop. But another sentence that I like repeating for practice is 这家店暂停营业了. This shop has suspended their business. Also, this is clearly a...
Yeah, you could say like 这个商店倒闭了. Is that what he actually said? I might have completely misunderstood him there.
Like repeating for practice is 这家店暂停营业了. This shop has suspended their business. Also, this is clearly a guard.
Okay, so no, he actually used a different word.
卫手. And then I like...
Okay, I never really played much Skyrim, but I did watch walkthroughs of it because I was developing a game, and part of their actually GDD, and GDD is actually a game development document. They reference Skyrim all the time because I wasn't someone who grew up with Skyrim. So then I went and watched like a ton of Skyrim, and I could see obviously why people like this game. But one of the things I remember is that everyone in this game just looked angry, like angry all the time.
Pretending that I'm talking to this person 我和这个人说话. And so I could say 你累了吗? Are you tired? 你需要暂停一下吗? Do you need to pause a little bit? Do you need to rest a little bit? 休息 is to rest. This is the alchemist, which in Chinese can be translated as 炼金术士. This is the alchemist, and then this...
You know, this is an interesting one because like obviously there's a specific word for alchemist and I didn't know it because I haven't practiced this word, although I should. I played a lot of World of Warcraft in Chinese, but in obviously you've got chemist, and modern Chinese is like Yao Dian type of thing, but in Esperanto you've got apoteko, which means chemist, but it's also used for like alchemist from the few texts I remember seeing it within. I may actually be wrong. Maybe there's another specific word in Esperanto for a alchemist type of thing, but I remember it was just apoteko.
This is the inn, which in Chinese is 客栈. 所以当然在这儿你可以睡觉，如果你订房间 if you of course you can sleep in here if you book a room.
This is actually an interesting one because Chinese on the mainland versus Chinese on Taiwan actually diverges a little bit here. You've got actually words that reverse their meaning. So you've got 酒店, which means hotel in one spot, can actually mean like a bar in another, and then you've got 饭店, which can mean hotel in one spot, then it can mean a restaurant in another. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just like pointing out interesting things here.
如果你付钱 if you pay money. Then a great thing about Skyrim is also the fact that if you push the wait button, boom, you've got the time. And that's fantastic for practicing time. So I can say it's 9:52. So I could say 几点了? What time it is? What time is it? And I can 现在9:52. I was a little slow there, but you can practice this every 10 minutes or so, and you'll have always a different time, and it's a fantastic way to practice. And then keep on saying whatever you see. Like, for example, mountain flower, we could translate as 山花. So there are so many things you can practice. And this was just in the city of Whiterun, right? Now imagine when I go into the forest, okay? So, for example, Seirin is...
Okay, so this whole video has just basically been a demo of this technique. I do want to add, because I don't think he's going to cover it, and maybe it's not applicable to Skyrim, but with World of Warcraft, you can change the entire game to be in your target language, which obviously is great. But another benefit of, like, say, a game of World of Warcraft is you can join guilds, and a lot of guilds are based around specific languages. So you can, like, worm your way into these guilds and use the daily conversation within these, like, actual guild chats to learn from, because you're going to get real life like gamer vocab from those conversations. And if you start participating, you're going to like advance really quickly. And this is something I want to get back to later next year, specifically for Chinese. I just can't at the moment because my life is so hectic and crazy with like the game that I'm developing at the moment for my personal studio and a bunch of other things, and like obviously this YouTube channel and stuff. But it's something I highly recommend. And one thing I dream of doing one day is, say, getting into a Chinese guild in World of Warcraft. It does annoy me, in fact, that World of Warcraft is no longer available within mainland China due to some, like, contracting issues or something with NetEase and stuff. But I should be able to still play with, like, say, Chinese speakers that are in Taiwan. And I guess it would be great practice for listening to a slightly different accent. Because right now I'm in Chongqing in China, which is a like kind of a southwestish type of region, and their Chinese here is actually quite similar due to historical reasons to the Chinese that's within Taiwan. Like, I'm not going to go into those historical reasons, but a lot of the media that I do want to watch is actually from Taiwan, yet I'm not very like acquainted with that accent.
Forest. 森林里有很多动物, so there are a lot of animals in the forest. I just start describing the nature. So this is, for example, is one tree. So I can say 一棵树, right? It's one tree. And if you're walking by a river, you can call it a 河流. If you're nearby a port, for example, you can call it 港口, etc. So there are so many things. You go to solitude, and you can say 这是这个国家的首都. This is
Like, if you wanted to take this to the extreme, you could literally just stand in one room and try to describe everything you can see. So, like, for example, you could be standing right here, and you could say, 哦，在我的前面，我看到一名保安，在我的左边，我看到一扇门. You know, you can just keep saying these one things over and over and over until you get really good at that and then move on to the next room. And you could literally make an entire thing around this. Now, something I also want to bring up is what happens if you're not sure how to say something? Yes, you could look up the word in the dictionary, but you could also then start using things like ChatGPT and ask it. You write out your sentence and ask it, is this natural spoken Chinese? Now, another thing I've actually been doing recently is asking it, is this how someone would say it in this region of China? Because it will actually often also be able to tell you how they will say things in local accents. And I've checked a lot of what it's given me with my wife, who's a Chinese speaker, so obviously I'm not going to have this issue as much as other people, but I've checked this a lot, and most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, she said, yeah, that's perfectly fine, normal Chinese from, you know, my region type of thing. Sometimes she will say, that's really weird. So obviously you've got to be a little bit careful with it, and you need to find some way of like confirming, but it's a good method overall. And as long as you're willing to accept some like potential issues, that is a good way of learning.
The capital of this kingdom, of this reign, and then you could say a sentence. The first sentence that comes to my mind would be 一个国家的首都通常是文化和政治中心，所以我觉得非常重要的. Why am I fluent? Because whenever I play Skyrim, how long has it been? Not even 10 minutes. 孩子, it's a kid. 孩子. How many words have I practiced? And that's just 10 minutes. I do this for 4 hours a day. Now I'm doing it with Mandarin.
4 hours a day, bro. I wish I had 4 hours a day, but that is a massive achievement. The only thing I would definitely say is make sure that the vast majority of what you're saying is actually correct. Usually when you're at an upper level, probably like what he is and I am, you have ways of confirming this. Like you can just like validate it yourself. But if you're not, definitely make sure you check with someone what you're saying, because you don't want to start fossilizing like bad errors, which then become like very hard to like correct later.
But I've done it with every language that I speak. That's key to being able to be fluent even in one language. You don't have to do it in multiple languages. As I was saying, I like practicing this because it's a great way. I can practice when you go to the forest. I can say, for example, instead of just saying 动物, animal, once I memorize that, I can start saying something like 野生动物, so wild animals. And you know, every time you add, open the menu, map is 地图. So
I'm guessing he says a lot of stuff like 我残杀了所有这里的人，我是世界上最强壮的人。
So I can say 我们看看地图. We have a look at the map. If I go into the items, many more words that you can practice. 食物 is food. 书 obviously 钥匙. You can say 武器 weapons, and when you go into the apparel, let's say check this one out. If I want to start practicing more verbs, and this is all sorts of, like, for example, 半甲 is plate armor, and then if I push the button, I removed it, right? So I'm taking it off. To take off elements of clothing in Chinese is 脱下, and then I put it on. 穿上脱下穿上脱下穿上脱下穿上. It's fantastic practice.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely like a really good way of doing it. The only thing I wish he could do, maybe it's not possible with Skyrim, is just put the interface in your target language, especially for Chinese. It's a great way of practicing the language. If you can't for Skyrim, World of Warcraft, highly recommend it, although, of course, you need to like actually pay a subscription fee.
And you will remember it. Why? Because it's 很好玩, it's fun. And if it's fun, it works. And you can, like they say in Chinese.
Oh, the audio seemed to randomly drop out there. Let me just double check that.
Like they say in Chinese. You can learn.
Oh no, it's just an audio issue in the video. Okay, so we're pretty much at the end of the video. Highly recommend this method. It's a great way for reviewing what you know, but it's also, if you're using like a game that's got an interface within the language, a great way for acquiring more vocab. Just realize that the vast majority of the vocab you do acquire will be of no use in your real everyday life, because like how often do we need to walk down the street and pick up a battle axe type of thing? But overall, it allows you to massively practice the language, and as he said, 很好玩, it's lots of fun. Okay, that's pretty much it. We're at the end of this video. If you guys got any other videos you want me to review, just let me know in the comment section below.